We'll let the last of the stragglers come in. I was just saying to Chris, we probably got the two worst sessions. The last one before the bar yesterday, and the one straight after lunch today, right? So hopefully you guys aren't too sluggish. You're going to be able to. We'll try and keep you awake as best we can. Try not to bore you while we're talking about what we believe is a very important topic. And hopefully by the end of this, either you're coming in believing it, or by the end of this, you'll also believe that broad cloud calling and the flex offer that we're going to talk about is really important for you and your business, and what it can do for us and what it can do for you, and we think there's great opportunities here. So, as I said, John Costello is my name. I'm actually based out of the west coast of Ireland, working on the broad cloud calling team. We are dispersed all over the world, and as we see, so will broad cloud calling be dispersed very quickly, hopefully, all over the globe as well. And I'm joined by Chris, the good-looking one. So he's going to take over after a while and talk about lots of the commercial and the onboarding pieces that are pretty important, hopefully, to all of you. So without further ado, you've seen, hopefully, if you've gone to any of the keynote sessions, or you've been in some of the other breakout sessions talking about broad cloud for carriers. And if you haven't, there's another one later on at 4 o'clock in this room that you should go to. But we've seen various different offers. So what we're saying is broad cloud calling is just another one of those offers. We want to fulfill the ability to actually address any customer need, any user need, and any of your needs. So none of these partner hosted ones that a lot of you are involved in already are going away. So HCS is very, very successful for us, will continue to be very successful for us, and we'll continue to invest in it. Cisco BroadWorks has been very successful for us and for you, obviously. We'll continue to invest in that. And that platform of BroadWorks is the underlying platform for a lot of the calling capabilities and everything else that we've now built into the broad cloud offer. And that Cisco broad cloud offer, not hosted by you guys, but hosted by us, Cisco, and run by us and maintained by us and everything else. And that's what we're going to focus on in this breakout. So if you thought it was something else and you want to leave, now would be good. Now would be a good time. I'm joking. Hopefully you'll stay. So, as I said, the traditional offers, and again, if you've been to some of the keynotes or some of the other breakouts, there's a little bit of repetition here, obviously, but it's worth repeating, I think, to say we have lots of different offers. The reason we have lots of different offers is because we believe that there's a need for all those offers, and there's a different customer or user experience or et cetera that they need. And these ones, the traditional ones, they were always allowing you as the service providers to customize those offers. You as the service providers to decide on behalf of your customers which phones they wanted to add to that solution. You, again, as the service providers, branding that experience, be it the portals, be it the applications, desktop, mobile applications, etc., putting your logo in there, selling it as your solution, giving you that opportunity to do that. That all continues. They all exist. They will all still be around for some time to come. But what we're actually doing now, sorry, and I went too far, in the Flex Plan, and again, actually, anyone here, how many people here have actually been involved and understand what the Collaboration Flex Plan is? I see some Cisco hands going up, and I see lots on this side, and very few on this side. So a mixture, and it was the same, and I think we've got that kind of response. So hopefully by the end of this session, especially as Chris goes through it later on, we'll fully understand the power of that commercial offer through Flex. Cisco Broad Cloud Calling, which is the one we're going to talk about, is offered purely through that Flex commercial offer. So again, what's different about it? Some differences from the Broad Cloud for Carriers offer, which is still there, is that only Cisco MPP phones, those multi-party phones that we're familiar with, and we'll have a look at that range of phones later on. They're the only ones that will be supported as part of this offer, but it's part of a very feature-rich offer, and a feature-rich and a wide diversity of capabilities from a desktop perspective. We are still allowing that brandable experience, so that desktop clients, the mobile clients, the portals, etc. It's your opportunity to brand that as your offer. You're going to bring the PSTN capabilities to it. You're going to bring your services, hopefully, into this and offer as a complete solution. And again, Chris will bring us through what that really means from a commercial perspective. But this is a great opportunity for us to sell in this market through that commercial simple flex offer, and for you to actually bundle everything that you've got on top of that, and the expertise and the capabilities and the routes to market that you guys have. But in addition, and this is an important, very important point, is that last bit on the right. We are bringing the ability, by selling through this model, this commercial model, we are bringing that Cisco sales team, and there's quite a few of them I see in this room. There's quite an awful lot more of them around the world. The Cisco sales teams will go out and start finding deals in that mid-market space, 100 to 1,000 in particular, finding deals and bringing, if you've got the right offer and you're proven to have that right offer that meets what they need for their customers that they have mind, they'll bring those opportunities to you. So we want them to be successful, they want to be successful, they want you to be successful because that makes them money, right? Let's be honest, that's what drives everyone. So that's what Broadcloud calling is really all about. So as I said, just to repeat, the traditional ones, the Broadcloud for Carrier, there's a session here later on at 4 o'clock. It'll go through all of that and lots of any of the functionality and new requirements and new developments that we put into Broadcloud for Carriers that exist today or Broadcloud calling that we're bringing out now. They'll apply across all of the platforms. So Cisco Broadcloud itself is the platform, and then we've different offers on top of that. So again, the focus of this breakout, very clear, is that Cisco Broadcloud calling, and that's just a name we've put on it. It means it's the Flex commercial offer. It's sold through Flex, and about Flex and the actual offer itself, let's get into it. So what's the beauty? Why are we doing this? What are we doing differently in this, right? So we believe we're trying to make this a very, very simple thing to sell. So there's an opportunity here that you can sell through the Flex commercial offer, calling and our meetings. So you can have a calling offer as a simple Flex offer, you can have meetings as a simple Flex offer, or you can combine the two. And again, Chris will bring us down through some of the ways that those can be combined later on. So different again from what we did with Broadcloud for Carriers was you would lift lots of different options of features, different packages, bundle of this, a bundle of that. We're making this really, really simple. It's a very feature-rich solution, calling solution. We're allowing, with one license, whether that's a named user or an enterprise agreement that we'll see in a minute, you get all of those features enabled out of the box. So if you've got a license for a user, it means that you've got every one of those features enabled, including an unlimited subscription of those group features. So the Broadcloud group features, if you're familiar with them, auto attendance, shared call appearance, hunt groups, etc. Again, unlimited subscription for those, for every one of the users that you've got a license for. And all in one simple Flex packaged offer. Also included, if you're selling a Flex Broadcloud calling license to anyone, WebEx Teams, that messaging platform, that messaging capability is an optional add-on that is included in that actual package and that license. So there's no need for an additional license for Teams. It's there, it's available, it's a choice for you to sell, to you to support, but it's a choice for your customers as well. We want, hopefully, to get to every user with WebEx Teams. We want and hope every user has a combined offer of meetings as well, because that's the other option. And again, it can be bundled with the calling offer, or it can be sold as a separate Teams license as part of the Flex. And if you start on the right with meetings, it should be very, very straightforward from a commercial and selling opportunity to actually go and upgrade to calling. And likewise, you can start with calling and upgrade to meetings in a very simple transaction and a very simple onboarding process, we believe, as well, and get that whole collaboration suite. So that's the opportunity. It's get the whole collaboration suite, sell and upsell, put in your bundle PSTN, put in whatever additional services you might have as service providers where you add real value, and bundle it into a package that makes sense for your customers, right? So that's what we're trying to do here, make that easier to sell. And in the background, we'll host it all, we'll support it all, we'll make sure it all keeps up and running, and we'll give you your 99.9% reliability, etc. So again, Flex. Flex really is about flexible ways to purchase. So if we're just talking about, as I said, it's either meetings and calling or meetings and calling, and either of those options gets you that wonderful WebEx Teams messaging experience included as part of the offer. But for the calling experience, there's two different options. So you can start with the, as I think you call it, Chris, the onesies and twosies, the named user option, right? So the named user option basically means I'm enabling calling for whatever users I want, whether that's start with 10, start with 100, start with 250, whatever it is, right? And I can add, individual users or groups of users as I go along. The other option, and the option for 250 users up, so those customers that are starting with that kind of that number, you have an enterprise agreement option, which means basically you're turning it on for everyone. So there's obviously a different commercial offer in terms of pricing and everything else, depending on which of those options you choose. The one that is obviously commercially better in terms of attractiveness often is the enterprise agreement, if you're ready to go and sell that for everyone. Other advantages if you sell the enterprise agreement license are, I get a common license, so there's two different, and we'll see it in a minute I think, there's two different licenses. One is your standard license, which is for users, which gives me all of those PBX features kind of that we're familiar with and calling features we're familiar with as part of the standard offer. And then there's a common area license, and that common area license is basically for lobbies, it's for places, right? Which is very limited in terms of the actual feature capability, but very advanced in terms of what it's needed for. If you buy an enterprise agreement license, well, you get the option of actually having 50% common area licenses in addition, at no additional cost. So it's included as part of that enterprise agreement license. Not only that, but you also get the opportunity to do a true-up and a growth for your knowledge worker for those standard licenses. So if I have a 1,000 user license as a part of an enterprise agreement license, I can grow to 1,200 without actually having to pay an additional license cost. If I go to 1,201, I'll be charged for 1,001, etc. So again, lots of different commercial reasons and advantages to maybe want to look at that enterprise agreement. But you can start with named user, move to enterprise agreement later if that's what you want. And again, every one of these licenses, including the WebEx Teams messaging capability and collaboration capability. So where are we? Where is BroadCloud? So BroadCloud is available as a platform globally today. We've got data centers in the US, fully redundant, secure, failover data centers in the US, in EMEA, and in Asia-Pac, down in Australia. We are going to expand that as well. So we have plans over the next few months to expand that to Canada and Japan. And then there may be another expansion within Europe itself, depending on what happens in those final negotiations around Brexit and everything else. But again, plans, waiting to see what happens there, but definite plans, committed plans to do Canada and to do Japan as extra data centers. So as a result of it being available globally, once we launch, and we'll see the countries we're launching in, it is available in the US now, BroadCloud Calling. We have launched it since mid-October. It's available. Some of you maybe in this room are involved in those early partner engagements and onboarding and getting that offer right and getting it out there. Others will be involved hopefully very soon after this. And Chris is going to be the man, and he and his team have been driving those engagement processes with service providers like yourselves, and will continue to do that globally over the next months and hopefully years as we get more and more of you onboarded to sell BroadCloud Calling. So again, what it means is available globally is I can sell multinationally. I'll go through an example of that in a minute in terms of actually having a contract in a particular country and be able to sell in other countries and the services to other sites in other countries. It's very secure, it's fully redundant, as I said earlier, and again, you're bringing the PSTN, either you're bringing it through your own PSTN service provider capabilities, or you're bringing it through a partnered PSTN capability. Either are options. But again, you're bundling, as a service provider responsible for that bundling of the PSTN and the regulatory and everything else that goes around that to bring it to the overall package. That's where you bring the advantages and where we need to be successful together. So again, market availability. As I said, available in the US today. And some of you, as I said, are already working hard to start rolling out those offers. And some are already rolling out those offers. And we expect to see a lot more kind of energy and enthusiasm in terms of your engagements to make this happen even faster and get more and more of you offering those. And then we as a Cisco sales team, and at large, that thousands of sales guys have opportunities to look at what you can do. If you were at the keynotes this morning, you would have seen that digital accelerator program. Let's get involved in that. Let's make sure your offers are very clearly outlined in that, where your capabilities lie, where you're able to offer the services, and we can start bringing opportunities, Cisco can start bringing opportunities to you and help you be successful. So again, contract countries. What do we mean by a contract country is where you actually sign a contract to be able to provide the service out of that country. And where you're signed up to provide the service is where the regional data center that's associated with that country is where your services will be provided out of. So your calling capabilities, if you're contracted in the US, will be provided out of the US data centers. And then you can provide the capability to sites globally from there. So one thing we've done with BroadCloud this year is we've made all of these countries available and capabilities available on every one of the DCs. So in the past, that wouldn't have been the case. It would only be in the regional countries on each of the regional DCs. Now we've enabled all of these countries, and as I said, the date there, the end of November, is when we're targeting to have availability of this service, broad cloud calling service, available to be sold, to be fully localized and everything else in all the countries available, 19 countries there. So as an example, as I said, an example is Acme. So Acme is a service provider, contracted to sell broad cloud calling out of the US, fully enabled and certified as part of the discussion that Chris will bring us through later on, certified to sell this solution, contracted and signed a contract to sell out of the US, but they're selling to Digital Design, who happen to have a headquarters in the US, but also have sites in Germany and Hungary in this particular example. So the platform, because they're contracted out of the US, the platform that they'll use in the DC that they are honed in on, where their media and calling capabilities are served out of, is that US platform in North America. Their transaction and all transactions then, where they're contracted is US dollars. In terms of then the multi-sites and the international capabilities, that site that serves out of Germany, because that's a contracted country, fully localized, dial tones, announcements, languages, MPP, phone support, etc. Whereas the actual other ones, international countries, we will eventually go and turn more and more of those into contract countries over time, but they are partially localized. In the case of most of them, we've got most of the dial tones announcements, and we'll continue to iterate on that and make it better over time. So again, the data center location that it's actually run out of is the US. And then there's other examples. For example, I've got a choice then. If I want to service a site out of Europe from the US, I can do that. The other option is I can be contracted to sell out of Europe or one of those contracted countries and provide the service more regionally, locally. So again, it gives choices and options to try and serve that multinational and multi-site and geographically dispersed type of opportunity and solution. And we'll continue, as I said, to improve and iterate on that over time. In terms of the PSTN capabilities, so Cisco is not providing the PSTN as part of this offer. Cisco will never provide the PSTN as part of this offer. So the PSTN capabilities today that are available are, you as the service provider bring that PSTN capability and bundle it. Yes, we make it easier to actually port the numbers, do the number porting, put them into the platform and assign to users, but you're bringing that capability, or you're using a PSTN partner to bring that capability. That's the solution that exists today. Over time, and starting early next year, we'll introduce other capabilities. So for example, you're able to provide PSTN capabilities out of 10 countries, but there's an 11th country where one of your customers wants to provide and support a broad cloud calling site. Well, we'll introduce the ability through local gateways. So that's an on-premise deployment of Cube to start with, and others over time. That ability to actually use that local gateway as the path through their enterprise to whatever PSTN service provider and services that they've already have in existence or can put in existence locally. So again, the primary aim of that in this environment where you're bundling all the solutions is, I don't want to have to restrict it to where we've just said those contracted and international country capabilities exist today. So it's expanding geographically, globally, to everywhere, basically, once you have that capability. And it's just an option. As I said, we will also continue to add more and more countries over time. So again, giving options. And that last one is something that we're in the midst of investigating how best do we do it, which is bring your own SIP. So the ability for the likes of yourselves to actually go and bring your PSTN service and offer it to others, so that others who don't have that PSTN capability in whatever region it happens to be or whatever country it happens to be, you can bring that PSTN service, interconnect it back into our broad cloud in region, and then have it as an offer beyond that for anyone else in that region. So again, something we'll probably be talking to some of you over the coming months to see whether that makes sense, how it makes sense. But it's again offering different options and capabilities to make sure that we reach as much of the globe as we possibly can with your help and with your assistance to actually go and get to as many users and customers as we possibly can. So in terms of the actual calling client or the calling application, so what we've done is, you're familiar with UC1 again. If you were in the keynotes this morning, you would have been looking at all the various client demos. The client that we're actually offering with the broad cloud calling capabilities today is a standalone calling application. Looks and feels very like what you might have been familiar with if you are with UC1, but redesigned to look more like a kind of a WebEx look and feel, a Cisco look and feel. But this one is brandable. So this is, you get a branding kit. It's part of the branding kit, whether it's the mobile or the desktop application. You put your logo on there. You put your color scheme on there. You make it your offer as a service provider. It's your client, your offer, and this is just part of that. In terms of what we offer is we offer that basic default client to be branded. We offer the branding kit. And more importantly, we offer all the capabilities and features that exist within the BroadCloud core infrastructure itself. So all those mid-call features that you would expect, voicemail, visual voicemail, call history, transfer, conference, consultation, hunt group, call pickup, you name it, end-by calling, etc. So all those things that you would expect. I've said it before, I think it's a very, very feature-rich capability, and we should never really end up losing on features, any deal. Or you should never end up losing any deal in features. They're all there, and the ones that aren't there, we'll continue to add over time. So that's it in terms of what it is. It's a standalone calling app today. Where we want to get to, and we're getting asked all the time, well, okay, you've got a standalone calling app. Well, I've got a messaging app. You're trying to sell me, well, you're giving me WebEx Teams as the messaging app. Why aren't those two things together? The reason they're not together today is because of where we come from. So WebEx Teams was Cisco. The UC1 and the calling application and everything it did was all BroadSoft, bring them together. What we're going to do early next year as an interim step, around the February time we're aiming at, is have a more integrated experience. So if I go have a WebEx Teams user, I look up a contact and I have a phone number for them. And if you saw the keynote this morning, you would have seen that click to call demo. So it would have been click on that number and it'll launch that calling application. And that's, again, an interim step before we get to the next stage, which is also being worked on. And hopefully we'll have a first phase sometime around the end of Q1 next year of actually having that calling capability natively built into the WebEx Teams app. So again, it'll be a native SIP stack within that WebEx Teams app that will talk directly back, register to the BroadCloud call service, and provide all those calling capabilities natively in that Teams app as a single unified application by taking that and registering it with and providing the services from that BroadCloud calling service, wherever that may be. So again, that's going to be initially a subset of those calling features, and over time, over a phased period of months, we will add more and more and more of those features. So some people have asked, well, why do that interim step? Why do that click to call if you're going to offer that single unified client? The reason? Because we won't have every single calling application in that unified client on day one when we launch it, as I said, sometime at the end of Q1 or around that time frame. But we will and are committed to actually delivering all of those calling capabilities over a phased manner. So for those customers that those basic initial calling features that are included in that unified client, if they're not good enough for those customers, well, they can still have the independent calling app and do that click-to-call capability from WebEx Teams, and then move over time to the fully unified WebEx Teams application. Okay. In terms of the actual supported devices, so as I said earlier, one important difference from the BroadWorks or the BroadCloud for Carriers offer that's available today and will continue to be made available is they offer other third-party phone support. We'll offer this, and it's a very, very comprehensive suite of Cisco MPP phones, whether that's in your basic phone series without video, for your common areas or whatever, or it's your ATA, your analog terminal adapters, right all the way up through various high-end video phones, and your headset portfolio that we've now introduced, and we are introducing very soon a DEC phone as part of that MPP family as well. So it's a very comprehensive, we believe, a very comprehensive set of endpoints that should and hopefully will meet the needs of pretty much every type of knowledge worker user or common area station that you need to address. And in addition to those devices, if you've got the Teams capability and you have the Teams, WebEx Teams services, you have the ability to add all those other video devices as well. So the room systems, the mini kits, all those other devices we've seen on stage and in the demo areas. And if you haven't seen them, go and have a look at them. They're very, 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 very powerful. You have the ability to register those with your Teams services, have all of these registered with BroadCloud services, and have them interrupt together. But again, a very, very diverse and basically lots and lots of options, I think is what I'm trying to say. So we should have something for everyone, I think, in that. The other commitment that we're making is that we're going to make these phones work better on broad cloud calling. We're going to commit to making Cisco on Cisco better. We're going to add things like the onboarding. Again, if you saw the demo in the keynote this morning, the onboarding demo where you have a QR code or a 16-digit code, you get your phone, it gets sent to you, you take it out of the box, you plug in that code, and all of a sudden you're automatically registered. So there's no need for someone to go to site. There's no need for a help desk ticket. There's no need to ring up an agent and say, what do I do next? How do I actually go into this configuration? None of that. Easy. Literally, 16-digit code or a QR code, punch it in, and it automatically, through that global discovery service, will find where your service is, which broad cloud data center you're connected to, and bingo, you're up and running. So again, things like that we will be introducing very soon. We'll also be doing lots and lots more meetings integration, so that big green button to join a meeting will be available in all these phones sometime in the future. Other things that are kind of different and important as part of the broad cloud calling offer, it's part of the overall WebEx collaboration suite of capabilities, as I said earlier. And there's a common identity for all of those, that suite of, so whether it's messaging, whether it's meetings, whether it's calling, you've got a single common identity in that WebEx cloud. And that single common identity means that I actually have one identity across all of those platforms if I have them. I have one single sign-on capability across all of those WebEx services if I have all of them. One or all of them. I can have identity sync. I can take my enterprise AD directory and sync it back up to the common identity cloud. So I've got full enterprise AD integration and identity sync from that cloud. And then after that, there's full authentication we delegate. So we will make it very straightforward for you to decide as a partner or your customer to decide what kind of authentication they want to use. We'll just delegate that authority and that authentication back down to the customer to say whatever they want to use. We'll support it through standards methods. So again, that whole idea of common identity means I've got the same identity and the same single sign-on and the same capabilities without all the stress and the hassle and the technical bits that we had to do in the past for all of the WebEx services if I have them all, including the calling capability. I think I've touched on this often enough probably already, but this really is a very feature-rich offering. It is, if you're familiar with broad cloud calling from before, if you're familiar with BroadWorks from before, then obviously it's got all of those, most of those capabilities, and the ones that aren't there, we'll add over time. But again, I think it has enough capabilities that we should be able to, and you should be able to reach all of your customers' needs from a kind of a traditional PBX type calling capability perspective. So in terms of how do we get this and what's involved in actually provisioning it and rolling it out and everything else from your perspective, Chris is going to take us later on a little journey of how do I get, before I get to that ready to order stage, what do I have to do from an onboarding perspective? So I'll leave that to him, but let's say we're there now, we've got it, we're certified, we're able to sell. What happens next? So the other difference from the past is that the only place to actually place those orders for the broad cloud calling or any of the flex offers will be through that Cisco Commerce Workspace, CCW ordering tool. So that's where the orders will be. Yes, our account teams will bring those opportunities to you. You need to go in and do the orders from there. Once that calling order has been placed in CCW, the entitlement for the customer will get enabled in Control Hub. That's a new portal for some of you. For those of you familiar with WebEx Teams or meetings, it's the exact same portal that you're familiar with, the exact same look and feel that you would have been familiar with. So again, it's very, very straightforward. We're trying to make the onboarding of you as a partner in terms of what you do in Control Hub to be onboarded, very straightforward. The onboarding of a customer of yours as you actually sell them the solution, very, very straightforward. Then once you've done that and you've enabled your customer within Control Hub, you start actually provisioning the services within that Control Hub portal as well. And for those other little bits of configuration, more complex configuration of some of those features that I spoke about, the hunt groups, the auto attendance, etc., they're then done within the Rialto Enterprise portal. So you have a full cross-launch capability. It'll launch you with rich URLs back into the right place in that rep portal to do the remainder of that configuration capability. So a visual of what that kind of looks like. And again, if you go along to the session at 4 o'clock in this room on the Broad Clouds for Carrier section, you'll see on that right side, that Rialto Enterprise portal, lots and lots and lots of good work has been done to make that simpler, more intuitive, give more visibility to your customers, to what they're using, to what they have, to what they need, etc. But we'll start on the left-hand side, and again, I said, it's the exact same look and feel for not just this calling experience that we're enabling here, but also for your meetings and your messaging capabilities, all done out of here. Provision it here, onboard yourself, with common identity, onboard your customer with common identity, do your provisioning of most of your services within that control hub, and then for those extra pieces, cross-launch across to the calling administration capability within the Rialto Enterprise Portal. Okay? We think straightforward, and we'll continue to improve upon that. So speaking of continuing to improve, so where are we now? As I said, we have launched this offer being Cisco Broad Cloud Calling as part of that Collaboration Flex offer. It has been launched in the US. It is being sold in the US right now. There are a limited number of partners on board it and fully ready to go. There are more being added as we speak. There are some going through lots of different parts of that journey that Chris is going to talk to us about, and we'd like to see more and more. And we've started onboarding in EMEA, and we'll start very soon in Asia Pac with different providers down there as well. We want you to be part of this journey. We want you to be successful. So once it's available for those other regions at the end of this month, we've already, as I said, started the discussions with those service providers, started that onboarding process, and we want more and more to be added to that so that we can cover as much of this opportunity around the globe as we can. So again, launched in the US, end of November, launched globally and available globally. After that, we'll do things, and I spoke about it earlier, the likes of the local gateway capability. When the word automated, what does that mean? Well, that means is that gateway that's on-premise, yes, there's a little bit of configuration. We'll provide scripts to do that. But the bit that has to be done in the cloud, to connect that gateway to the cloud, it will literally be a matter of putting in an SRV address, an IP address, and clicking a button, and that'll do the rest of the cloud automation for you. So we're making it as easy as that. We're also introducing things like extension-only dialing, so you don't have to associate a PSTN number with every user for those that don't want it. If you want to have kind of a collection of users using single PSTN numbers, etc. That, again, goes into in more detail in the Broad Cloud for Carrier section, or session later on if you want more detail on that. I spoke about some of those other features, but the most important point to think about this chart is we're committed to keeping on developing on this platform. We will continue to iterate, to improve, to get your feedback as to what's missing, but this is just a kind of a snapshot of some of the things we're doing. That GDS onboarding, that global discovery service I spoke about earlier, the automated onboarding of the phones. We'll add those video room systems that I said are now registered back to the WebEx Teams cloud. We'll provide the calling capability for those through the Broad Cloud Calling service. We'll also are doing things like adding more integration with the customer journey platform, etc. And we'll have a better fully cloud serviced capability for that over time. Other things like the bring your own SIP I spoke about that we will be speaking to many of you, I think, over the coming months around what we need to do for that. And visual device management, things like that. Again, lots more detail on those in the session later on if you want to go to that, or over in the showcase demos area. We'd recommend you go over and have a look at those. Others over there, we'll continue to roll this out internationally and further and wider and eventually cover the whole of the globe in every country, we hope, at some stage. And we'll do other things like dial plan enhancements to make migrations from existing enterprise customers, for example, easier as we go forward. Again, the target here initially is mid-market, 100 to 1,000 users. The Flex capability started at 100 plus, but we'll continue to make, even for those that want to actually migrate over time, that migration experience easier, and those kind of enhancements we'll continue to do throughout next year and obviously beyond. Okay, so again, we're fully committed to it. We want you guys to be fully involved in it. We want you to be selling it as an overall solution bundled with everything that you have as well. And we'll be continuing to invest. And with that, I will pass over to Chris to go through some of the commercial overview.
Thanks, John. So as John explained the offer, now what I'm going to do is kind of take you through how do we buy that offer, how do we wrap it in the Flex Plan. So saw the show of hands earlier. Some of you know Flex Plan, some don't, but think of Flex Plan as a contractual vehicle that we leverage on the Cisco side to put various collaboration payloads into a single subscription to an end customer. So the key here is we just had our sales conference in August, and we essentially told all of our Cisco sellers that if you're going to sell collaboration this year, sell it in the Flex Plan. Sell Flex, sell Flex, sell Flex. customer doesn't want Flex, sell them Flex, right? So you're going to see a lot of Cisco demand for a Flex offering. So with this new broad cloud calling, the reason we're putting in Flex is that's the selling motion our guys are familiar with. That's what they're getting trained on to do. So to dive a little deeper on this, there's two sides to the Flex Plan, if you will. There's meeting side. One of the things with Flex Plan is I separate the purchasing decision from the deployment model. So once I'm in a subscription, I can move on-prem to cloud or back and forth if I so desire as a customer. The price points may vary depending on what you do, but essentially the model has both deployment options and then specific how I buy the license options. So on the meeting side, most of what we sell here is WebEx. So that's the cloud offering you see under meetings there. There are some customers that still do our meeting server stuff on-prem. They can get in the subscription that way and then move to WebEx over time. But majority of what you'll see is WebEx on the meeting side. In the meetings, you can buy it 3 different ways. You can buy it as a named user offering where I'm buying it onesie, twosies for each users. Or I can buy an all-in enterprise agreement where everybody's paying for the service. The one that's the most popular for us is the active user model. In the active user model, this is, think of it as kind of a seeding strategy, if you will. We give access to all the knowledge workers, but we're only billing the customer for 15% of them. So what this model is meant to do, get you a good portion of the users on WebEx, get everybody using WebEx, and then at the beginning of each year, we true forward to see where they've grown to. So if they start at 15%, next year they're at 20, they get billed for 20% the next year. If they grow again to 22, 23, they get billed that true forward each year. There's no arrears they have to pay just going forward. So where the model kind of flips between the two is if you start somebody on active user, typically when they get about 40% usage, they're better off going into the enterprise agreement on the meeting side, just the way the cost models are. So we tend to start customers in the active user model, and then as they drive up their usage, they'll flip in the enterprise agreement, and then they get a better price point. So that's the meeting side of the house. On the calling side, we have 3 deployment models. We have the on-prem stuff, which is all the call manager gear that we have out there, communications manager stuff. We have hosted, which today is our HCS offering. And then we have cloud, which is where we're going to drop broad cloud calling into. On the calling side, as John mentioned, I can buy that either as named user or I can buy an enterprise agreement. So named user, I'm selling it per department, per site, whatever, and rolling it out slowly. Enterprise agreement, I'm selling it to all the users of that particular company from a knowledge worker perspective. Regardless of how I bundle a Flex Plan, I always get messaging, which is the WebEx Teams app. So if I buy just calling or buy just meetings, I always get messaging kind of tossed in because we want to drive the usage of that client. So there's where BroadSoft sits. When we do this, there's a top-level SKU that's called A-Flex that everything rolls up under. So the beauty of this, once you get a customer in a subscription, it's a land and expand strategy. So I want to get a customer on a subscription any way I can as a partner, because once I'm the partner of record on that customer, it's very tough for another partner to come in and take one of the other payloads away from me, because I own the top-level subscription. So the way it works is I bundle whatever the customer chooses to buy in that subscription, and then I look at what payload I want to sell them next and just modify that subscription over time, add more stuff. So you could buy just standalone calling under a Flex Plan. You could buy standalone meetings, as we talked about, under a Flex Plan, or I can do the various combinations of named user calling plus named user meetings, or EA meetings, AU meetings. There's a variety of bundles we could put together. So we incent both our partners and our customers to buy those combinations because we give you better pricing when you buy it together, okay? And then the key thing on the bottom there is bolting on the Cisco endpoints. If you want to get on this journey with us on Flex, The key is having those various Cisco endpoints that you can bolt on, because that's just more money for the endpoints, as well as all those room systems that you saw on stage the other day, whether it's a room kit or a Spark board, et cetera. Okay? In the Cisco land, our guys are, as I said, incented to sell on Flex. So what we're doing to educate our guys on how this model works, because cloud is new to them as well, is how do we teach them to care about your guys' street price and not what they get paid on, which is always difficult. So when you think about how we bundle this together, we're going to give you the PBX functionality in a subscription. That's your broad cloud calling transfer cost. So you're going to have a specific discount we're going to establish for you based on what type of partner you're on. That'll create your transfer price on the broad cloud calling. You're going to add your PSTN cost to that. You're going to add your margin, cost of sales, et cetera, on that, and you're going to come out with the street price for the customer. Okay? Our guys get paid just on that transfer cost. So the way a Cisco guy gets paid on a Flex deal, he gets paid on the transfer cost times the number of users times the length of that contract. So he wants the maximum number of users, and he wants the longest term possible. That's what drives his behavior. On the your guys' side of the house, the customer calling price is what the customer sees. So what we're educating our guys on, some Jedi training we were just kicking off this week, is focus on the street price of the partner and understand the partner's pricing, and talk to your customer about the partner price. Don't talk to them about transfer price, because that doesn't matter to the end customer. So you guys get billed based on what that transfer cost is, and then you guys wrap it in and offer it to the end customer. Okay? So what's the kind of interesting things from a partner consideration? So if you're not a Cisco partner today, or if you're a Cisco partner that may be in non-collaboration areas of Cisco, to become able to sell Flex, there's a couple of things you need. You need to be able to have the ability to sell what we call SaaS annuity type of stuff. So there's some documentation around a SaaS reseller agreement that you sign to be able to sell Flex. It's a click-through training. I have to send a couple of people through it. It's not too tough. The next one we do is what we call CMSP, or Cloud Managed Service Program. That particular program, what it's about is getting you guys as partners fixed discounts on all that stuff I talked about on the previous slide. So for this business to really scale and move fast, if we can get you guys fixed discounts that you can use and just have assurance of how you're pricing your stuff and let the business run without having to touch that deal over and over again, talking discounts with our guys, that makes the whole business move faster. So we get you into the CMSP program, and we can talk you through how that works. And then the partner account is tied to whatever that contract country is. So if you're in the US, we put you on the US platform, and based on where your PSTN capabilities are, you'll see that tied to your contract country. I mentioned we bill you guys. So when you book that deal in CCW, you pick a subscription start date. Whenever that subscription start date hits, we're going to start billing you for that subscription. You wrap it in, sell it to the end customer. On the technical side of the house, as a carrier, one of the requirements from a partner perspective, you have to be a regulated carrier. You've got to be able to bundle that PSTN in. That could be yours or a partner's PSTN. There's a couple of different options there. We've got some pre-integrated options in the US. The PSTN account is tied to your partner account. That's a one-to-one relationship. So if I'm going to deploy around the world, I may do different partnerships in different parts of the world. And then the rest of these is, the big one is tier 1 support. So if the customer has an issue, he's going to call you. You guys are going to troubleshoot, see if it's a network problem or anything you guys can fix. If it happens to be a calling feature problem or something else, you'll kick it to us in our TAC case, and we'll help you through it. Okay? So if you guys are interested in going on this journey with us, what we typically do is we'll take you through a workshop. So working with your BroadSoft account team, they tend to bring the interested partners to me and the team I'm on. We sit down with you. It's about a 3 to 4 hour workshop where we take you through what the offer is, how to understand this whole flex thing that some of you may not be familiar with. How do we get you onboarded? What's your PSTN decisions, et cetera? And we'll walk you through this particular workshop in about half a day or so. That's typically where we talk about the blue bubble there. So that's a 3-4 hour workshop. From that workshop, we do different work streams. So we'll set up with your team to go through the rest of the bubbles, assuming you say, yeah, I want to go forward. We'll help you define your offer. What's it look like for the street price? Make sure it's simple, easy to consume on our seller side of the house. We'll work with you on which your contractual vehicles you need to get established. Some of you may already have these boxes checked depending on where you're at in your Cisco journey, but we'll tell you what contracts you need to sign and also get your PSTN decision made. If you're doing a net new service provider to us, we do the PSTN interop with you, and we go through all that. Then we get you all set up with the PSTN interconnect, create your account, teach you how to do the ordering, provisioning, all that stuff through Control Hub, and finally, you're ready to go to market. So on the go-to-market piece, what we really focus on this offer is trying to get, as I said before, our guys educated on what your offer is. So we got various digital tools where we help you set up things like microsites to advertise your offer into the Cisco world. We do meet the partner sessions with our Cisco sellers to say, we bring you guys on a WebEx with our key sellers in your particular country. You pitch your offer to our sales teams, tell them this is what our offer looks like, this is what our estimated street price is, this kind of our discount guidance on that pricing, and who our key sales contacts are for you to reach out and book deals with, okay? So we want as many of you to kind of come through this journey as possible. So reach out to your BroadSoft account managers, talk to them about this offer, and they'll come to us and we'll do these workshops with you. So summary from the session, as John mentioned, best-in-class suite from a feature perspective. We've got a variety of ways to integrate things and move customers from one environment to the other. Safe and secure global platform. We're rolling it out globally starting this month. And simple to buy as we wrap it in that Flex plan and leverage that Cisco Fit Salesforce to help drive it. So as I mentioned, reach out to that BroadSoft account team, get them engaged. They'll pull us in once you guys are ready for the conversation. You can't attend the session on becoming Cisco partner because it was yesterday, but if you did go, that would be good. And then up in the showcase, there's a ton of the stuff we talked about that we kind of flipped through fairly quick today around the Control Hub flow that you see, some of the branding stuff that we talked about, variety of things that you can see in the control or in the showcase, even the phones, et cetera. So highly recommend you go up there. And then, of course, always talk to our ecosystem partners. And last but not least, do your surveys.
Okay, any questions? We've got T-shirts for people who ask questions. Oh, we have lots of questions. Oh, good.
Do we get a T-shirt if we answer them?
We get a T-shirt.
Okay.
You mentioned like the active user,
Yeah.
and like as 15% as the benchmark. But what do you mean by active user or percent active user? Like if a company has a corporate meeting and then 3 times a year utilization might go up to 60%, is that active user or is it the average active user?
Good question. So active user in the meeting sense is anybody that hosts a meeting on a WebEx. So they may, like you said, host one once a month and not very often. What we do for that true forward is we look at months 9, 10, and 11 of that first year and average what the how many people were hosting meetings in those 3 months. Take the average of those 3, and that's what their new number is for the next year. So an active user, think of it as anybody that hosts a WebEx meeting. So if you're just attending a meeting, you're not an active user. It's just you're the host of the meeting. So how many people are hosting and driving meetings? That make sense? Yep.
My question's more related to on the BroadSoft calling side.
Okay.
And I've got a lot of different scenarios running through my head because we're actually on the VoIP Logic platform right now, if you guys
Okay.
are familiar with that. So, and I also own a BroadWorks platform that's under maintenance but not fully deployed right now. So, so I'm kind of half pregnant with a couple things here. So, so when I look at, like, I had evaluated platform as a service, which hasn't been spoken about very much in
Right.
in the workshops or anything. And then we looked at BroadSoft Carrier at one point in time, and that was really nicely packaged and stuff, but we didn't know if it would fit us. And then we've looked at deploying our own BroadWorks. Is this yet another option, or is this, like, what's providing me the BroadSoft calling? Is that a version of Broad Cloud?
Yeah. So the answer is yes.
Carrier?
Yes, it's another option. It's a
Oh,
version.
yay.
Yes, it's another option, but it's another option with a different feel to it in the sense that it's actually doing two other things that are important. One is giving you a simple commercial offer that allows you to uplift to meetings at any time through a very simple commercial capability. And also, it's obviously fully hosted by us. So yes, it's a broad cloud platform hosted by Cisco and everything else.
But it's not Broad Cloud Carrier.
It is pretty much the exact same from an underlying capability, or the data centers, the calling
No, I
capabilities, et cetera,
understand,
et cetera.
but productization-wise, it's not.
Productization-wise, it is
Two separate
not, right?
offerings.
And those
Okay.
differences I spoke about earlier. The other one is Cisco account teams bringing you opportunities which they won't do on the broad cloud carrier option.
So say I'm making my decisions, and say I deploy my BroadWorks. Can I still buy this separate and distinct from that?
Yeah, so-
Would it make sense for me to buy this separate and distinct from anything I do on my own BroadWorks
Yeah,
platform?
so a lot of the partners we talk to have, some are HCS providers with us, some are existing BroadWorks partners with us, some are existing Broad Cloud partners with us, some might be all three,
Yeah.
for example. Really, when you look at this offer, is that engagement with the Cisco team interesting to me? Is that a market I'm not
Right.
successful in right now? And is this the right offer to go after it
And
with?
is this a separate contract from Broad Cloud Carrier, a separate
Yes,
contract from
yes.
anything I'm purchasing in the BroadWorks
Yep,
environment?
yep. But what we would do with your account team is work through what your particular profile is, what kind of markets you think you want to go after, and we can tell you whether it's a fit or not, right? So that's typically what we do
for
with
sure,
partners.
yeah.
Yep.
I was just trying to figure out where to file it with the other.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you.
Just to follow up then on what you said, because at the very beginning, you laid out a couple of different versions of Flex, and you said this session was Broad Cloud Calling
Yep,
Flex, but there was a BroadWorks Flex.
correct.
There will be a BroadWorks Flex
There will
offer as
be.
well. Yeah, it's not there. It doesn't exist yet, but it's coming very, very soon, early next year, which will, again, as Chris has said, the whole kind of modus operandi within Cisco now, Cisco sellers sell on Flex, and as he said himself, if you're not selling on Flex, sell on Flex, right? I think it was very well put, and that is optional to bring the BroadWorks option into Flex. Again, different commercial model, different commercial offer, but bringing that into that whole portfolio and family and offering it in a different commercial way.
And so I guess the kicker really is that the Cisco sales teams are the ones out there then pushing this very integrated Cisco complete solution end-to-end, right? Cisco devices, Cisco headset,
Correct.
WebEx, and today Broad Cloud Teams, and meetings. And then you could have Broad Cloud. Well, you guys are going to put BroadWorks into that.
Yep.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, essentially, if you think about how we're rolling out Broad Cloud around the world, there'll be certain areas of the world where it takes us a little longer to get to from a PSTN and data center perspective. We got BroadWorks platforms all around the world, right? So enabling that in Flex allows some of those other countries to get on board much faster, where it might take us a while to get the Broad Cloud offering there. And then for those that prefer the BroadWorks model where they like to do the works themselves, we want them to have the opportunity to get in Flex as well.
But I think it's important to go through those discussions with your account managers to see what is suitable for your customers and which options and offers you should be actually taking to market.
Hi,
Hi.
good afternoon. If there are multiple broad cloud or broad works, frankly, in a market that are subscribing to your program, how are the decisions made as to where those leads go?
So it's all about your relationship with the Cisco account team. So typically when you do those meet the partner sessions, you do the education, you have your microsite set up, that's where you essentially define what differentiates you from other partners. So you put your kind of brand and spin on that for the Cisco sellers. But once you kind of get that up, you do the introduction, that's where the work begins. You really want to build those local relationships with those Cisco sales teams. So when you have your key contacts on that kind of sales page or meet the partner type session, that's where the preference tends to be driven from. So we're not saying we're going to kind of create a lead and give it to the highest bidder, so to speak. It's more, our guys are going to be out there discovering deals. They're going to understand what partners are out there, but those partners that come and talk to them a lot and help them understand their offers are the ones that are going to get preference.
So the decision is made by the Cisco representative.
Yep. I mean, in some cases, you guys are going to lead the deal, and he's going to be the beneficiary of it. Other times, if he discovers the deal, who he brings them to is who he's comfortable with talking to about the offer, right?
And
There'll
really,
be a bit of both,
if you're successful and proven to be successful with customers, they're going to keep wanting to come back to you, obviously.
Yep.
Right?
I'm sorry, we have to wrap up. We ran a little over time, but I want to thank Chris and John. They can be at the back of the room. We actually have quite a few questions, I think more, but
All right.
we ran a little bit late with some of the questions. Thank you so much. Thank you
All right,
all
guys.
for attending.